Today we are going to explore the opportunities to have a much stronger engagement between the private sector and the CGIAR research centers. We're looking for more engagement upstream to do more research together, and we're interested to explore opportunities to jointly develop products that can go to scale.
This morning I put in a pitch in the Dragon's Den. They put me on the spot, and I was talking about the way that we could use big data on climate, big data on agriculture, to really inform some of our interventions going forward. And there are lots of ways the private sector can work with research to provide solutions here. So we've got all of those information technologies, we've got insurance, we've got new technologies in farms, for example, water harvesting or micromanagement of nutrients. So there really is a wealth of opportunity in our rapidly changing world under climate change.
It was a bit of an artificial exercise in the sense that we weren't pitching a product, we were talking more broadly about programs and how we wanted to engage in the private sector. But given that constraint, it was very useful to understand the kind of different perspectives and how we're thinking programmatically, how the private sector is thinking about products and things like that.
As a research institution, what we can offer is in terms of evidence, either for an investment case or validation of impact and monitoring assessment, assistance with design to make supply chains much more sustainable, to help identify and manage risks inside of those. And of course, as a research institute, we have a lot of technological options. And it's that awareness of those options, trying to make them happen, implement them, we can co-create with private sector institutions is also fundamental. And then lastly, in an advisory role in both directions. First of all, inform people, then get their interest, then get their involvement, then get the investment of time and resources, and lastly, to increase that for impact.
I think it's time really to bring the different domains of the private sector, of the government and of civil society, knowledge institutes really together and see jointly what can be done to develop a joint agenda to achieve impact and to achieve scale.
But today we talk particularly about partnerships between researchers and the private sector or NGOs that help actually to reach the small farmers that are the ultimate target group of the work the CGIAR is doing, and also what the Netherlands hopes to achieve in its work on international collaboration. So we have to put in more energy in making sure that these partnerships are strong and that partners can work together, trust each other and have a common goal.
There's a lot of private sector people within 100 miles of this location that could have been very helpful to help frame the conversation. What you don't want to do is continue to have these meetings and have the same people talk to each other all the time. So I think there was a lack of that last phase, which is bringing the private sector in to listen and help frame the questions, because we have a very different view of most of these issues.
When I listen to a lot of very inspiring talks today, I do see some conflict between what we talk about as policy, when we've got a target to eradicate poverty, and when we seem to be relying so much on the private sector. And obviously the private sector has a role to play, but the idea that the private sector will really reach the poor, the very poor, I think we can't rely on them for that. We don't believe that trickle-down works, and that it's really important that we look broader than just the private sector for answers.
Scientists are willing to link up with private sector. Private sector may be interested, but not everybody has the time to bridge this gap. So it would be very important to have brokers that remove, let's say, the burden from the scientists and from the private sector to get together.
As we are at the basis of the chain, I heard some people arguing, well, again, the seed industry, but that is in fact also where it starts. So I think if you can start with good genetics and good seed quality, all the other things will fall in place.
Here we've been talking about big, large-scale interests, international companies, Dutch companies. I think what's missing a lot more is the emphasis on small and medium enterprises, which is critical to get small farmers linked to markets.
Well, I think there are some opportunities for building relationships and partnership with the private sector. And I think at the level of my center, the International Water Management Institute, I'm going to be looking at exploring new partnerships with a few private sector actors.
Well, some of the key things I take away from today, and it's a wonderful meeting to bring public and private sector institutions together, is that we have a disconnect. We have biases, we have preconceptions, and today has really helped break some of those down to build much more of a common language, because unless we're using the same vocabulary, it's hard to seek common awareness and common objectives. So that's been fundamental to it.
Hope you enjoyed watching our movie. We had an excellent day here in The Hague. It's a great step on the road to better engagement of the private sector with the CGIAR to hopefully jointly achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.